Hey Carl.
Hey, welcome.
Today I'm meeting Carl Pei, CEO of Nothing. Easily one of Europe's most ambitious hardware startups. Their pace is actually insane. They went to unicorn status in less than 4 years. They have over $1 billion in lifetime sales. And their community around is the fastest growing community funding round in European history. But I want to know, what does it actually take to make this kind of a company, especially from London, Europe? This is an extremely complex industry, completely dominated by massive large companies like Apple, for example, who have supply chain, software, everything under lockdown. It's also a really unforgiving market.
On the telephoto, that's a yikes. It's still a notch behind the mainstream flagships.
There's no way that it doesn't get absolutely mowed down by Samsung.
So I asked Carl Pei directly, what is his master plan? How do you not only survive, but how do you win? How do you become one of the dominant players? But also, what would it take to produce in the US or here in Europe? Let's start simple, like what is Nothing?
From your point of view, what is Nothing? It's like, I used to think about it as an iceberg, and then we gradually reveal ourselves. In the beginning, when we just started, we were known as an earbuds company because that was our first product. Today we make smartphones, earbuds, and smartwatches. But I think in the future, we have a much bigger ambition. I was a big tech fan. I bought the iPod. And those products were so inspirational for me. Over time, these younger, smaller, more creative companies all got really big. And when you get big, your strategy has to change. You got to play defense way more. You got to make it hard for your competitors to encroach into your territory. When we started, I think almost 300 million earbuds were sold every year worldwide. And more than 1 billion smartphones were sold annually worldwide. And we said, hey, there's only big companies here, and they have to be super safe. They have to make the kid want it, but also the grandparent want it. Like, they have to design for everybody. If we have a more niche positioning, at least to start with, even if we only have a small market share, a couple of percent, that's still a huge business because the category we're operating in is very big. Now the world we're living in is Apple's world.
Yeah.
They design something and then everybody copies them. They shifted it to an experience first, product discovery first experience. We really wanted to avoid that. So we took a step back and said, hey, look, if we have to force ourselves to imagine a world where Apple didn't exist, how would a tech company look like? So, what if history played out differently? What if Soviet Union won the Cold War? What if Japan won Second World War? Like, what would the electronics company, like the Apple equivalent, be? And that's how we started developing our visual language to differentiate.
So if Apple is anyway locking the highest paying customers, why not just completely go all out into the budget line and just make the best budget phone ever for next to literally nothing?
That's not where our ambition lies. Our ambition is to become the next generational consumer tech company. And if you don't have the margins, you cannot invest in technology. That's the key crux of the problem. I mentioned earlier, if you just compete on price, it becomes a negative spiral and race to the bottom. You can never jump out of that cycle. The positive cycle is you have margins, you invest the margins back into R&D. Your R&D, unique features that only you have and nobody else has. That allows you to charge even higher margins. It allows you to move up the price ladder and invest in better and better products and innovation. Like ultimately, we want to bring a lot of innovation to the world, and you can't do that with a low margin business.
So the playbook is simple. To compete with a massive company like Apple, you have to be unique, you have to be different, you have to go for niches. And for Carl, who loves product design since his childhood, this was quite clearly through a distinct brand, through a distinct experience. Like you look at one of the products, you instantly know it's Nothing. And in their case, for example, this is actually crazy hard to achieve. The transparent back that they're so famous for. To make this happen, they had to actually introduce standards in manufacturing, more strict than anything that Apple is currently doing. And they had to do this in multiple manufacturing sites in China and in India.
So how much of this is designed for design's sake versus designed for function versus designed to inspire function? How do you think about this?
Yeah, I was always really into transparent gadgets. Like this one is also a transparent gadget. But the thing is, if you just show exactly what it is inside, it looks a little bit ugly. So our designs, they're inspired by the engineering inside, but we add a layer on top of it to make it look better.
Between the second and the first and second, and then the third, you had a big jump, especially in the back of the design.
Yeah.
What was your motivation, and also what was the reception of the community?
Some people loved it, some people hated it.
Yeah.
I think that's actually pretty good for a startup, because if we don't experiment, then we might as well just go work for Apple or somebody like that.
How can I imagine a typical design process of a new product? Because I imagine a lot of collaboration between the actual manufacturing side and the design, because it's such a complex product nowadays.
Yeah, it requires a lot of teamwork, but broadly speaking, it's kind of two stages. One is the strategy stage. So when we have an idea for a product, the team gets together for a couple of months and we form like a virtual team. It's cross-functional, but within product, it's industrial design, software, mechanical, electrical, radio, etc. And then after that stage, we have like a kickoff meeting for product development. And it's almost like an investment committee meeting. So you have like a business plan for the product. So product positioning, how the product looks and feels, the features, the cost, how much it's going to sell, which regions, why, user analysis. Like it's a complete package that we make a decision on. So it's either go, no go, or redirect. And the entire goal of the development stage, the production stage, is actually to get it ready to launch.
Can we check out the space a bit?
Yeah, let's have a look. So this building we have two floors right now. We have a third floor that's kind of being built. The team is expanding. This is like a meeting area and a workshop area. So this is the main meeting table that we built ourselves. Some like product inspiration, and here's a workshop. So basically the workshop allows us to prototype quicker, right? Because if you only rely on international suppliers, whenever you have an idea, it takes a long time shipping and changing and getting it back. But by having this workshop, we can prototype really quickly. You have an idea upstairs, you just come downstairs and mock it up. So you can do like low fidelity stuff, like for instance, making a prototype just in foam. Okay. Just to see the shape of something.
Yeah, so like to get just like physicality.
Some physicality quickly as possible, and that helps the thinking. Because sometimes just seeing something on a computer screen and having it in real life is different. But then there's also CNC machines if you want to like make it into metal for like a more kind of close to reality mock-up, or 3D printers that we have here for like a plastic. So.
And these are like different iterations of designs, or how can I imagine this?
Yeah, you can imagine these are like iterations from the strategy stage. Yeah, when we're looking at how to design the product. So it's not just the physicality, but also we start like if we have some special features we want to build, we will work to also prototype the functions of the product. In a design studio, it's not just like industrial design, but we also need the ability to prototype more high fidelity stuff. So that includes having technologists on site to be able to mock up some of the functions electrically as well. With the Phone 3, we had this glyph interface, glyph matrix we call it, and that's also pretty new. So that was prototyped here.
You currently have like the premium line, the mid line, and then you guys also have now CMF, which is like the, let's say, budget line. And that one is very popular with Indian friends of mine. As far as I know, it's also produced in India.
Yeah, we've been manufacturing in India since 2022. I foresee this to happen, to continue in the next 10 years. And it's hard to compete with China, but I think India will still be like number 2 in the world in the next 10 years. And they're really picking up. Now they're also doing iPhones. I can just share an example because our products are transparent, right? So if there's one speck of dust in the product, you can see it, but the iPhone or the Samsung is not transparent. So if there's dust, you won't see it. Now the folks on the production line, they have to wear like a full body suit. So the hairs and like skin, there's no dust from your body on the product. And each station of the manufacturing is like it's a box. Above the clean room, there is a fan that blows the dust down.
Yeah.
And on the floor,
sucks.
It's like a mesh. You stand on the mesh, but under the mesh is water. So the dust sticks to the water. So actually to pull off transparent design, it wasn't that easy. But we had to work with the supply chain and the ecosystem over there to get it up to the quality level we need.
Their perfectionism design is obviously very expensive, but this is only half the story. The reality is this is a hyper-competitive industry, and economy of scale dictate everything. The margins are extremely thin, So I was kind of like, how do you like win here? What's the cheat code? How do you even stay afloat? His answer was surprisingly and very brutally honest. It was like essentially a discussion about a very hot topic called bloatware, pre-installed apps. He explained to me how this economy actually works.
One topic that I read a lot about especially in Android, is like ads and like the community calls it like bloatware. Well, look, why do companies actually do that? And what's your POV on this and like your experience with your own community around this?
If you think about our industry, consumer is hard. There's a lot of competition and high capex. So the margins are maybe in our industry, maybe 20, 25, 30%. But then you look at other parts of the stack, like the chipset, that's like 40, 50, 60%. You look at on the Android and iOS side, pure software and services, that might be like 80, 90%. The thing is, if your margins are low, then you cannot invest into technology. And if our entire industry also has some pre-installed apps to increase the margin profile of each device.
Why does it increase the margin profile?
Because we get paid for it.
Oh shit, that explains why my old Android had like 50 of those.
But it helps the margin with a few percentage points. And if we're already at a huge disadvantage because of scale, and Samsung has pre-installed apps and we don't, that's another disadvantage. So between like continuing to do smartphones or quitting, I would rather do this and continue than to quit, because that increases the margin profile by a little bit, which gives us a better position in the market.
The numbers are extremely tight in this industry. It's all about the margins. I had to ask him, like they're producing in China and India, like what would it take to actually bring this production here to Europe or to the US? And his answer was A, brutally honest, and B, not only about the numbers, but also about the mindset and like the grind it takes to actually build this kind of ecosystem.
A lot of the production in Shenzhen with Foxconn and everybody basically got co-created by Apple, and now they're moving also to India. From your point of view, what would it take for Europe to have its Shenzhen for phone manufacturing? Is this even possible?
It's going to be very hard. Yeah, because you need a lot of conviction that this is the right path. And you need to rally a lot of support behind it. And then you need the resource. It's not going to be free. Like you think about India as an example, I think what Europe needs to do then is to first have an industrial policy that really values this. Now we're in a period of geopolitical turmoil, trade wars and stuff. So even if Europe doesn't want to play the trade war game, it still has to play because the rest of the world is playing. So for those industries where you want the local manufacturing, you got to raise the tariffs.
Like young people also need these kind of jobs and like these kind of experiences, right? Like, what's your take? Like right now in San Francisco, there's like a lot of celebration of like taking somebody who is like early 20s and like giving them 500 million and like fucking go. And maybe we should have that in Europe, but like also to some extent, like, could you do nothing if you wouldn't have done like OnePlus or anything like that before?
I think giving 20-year-olds 500 million is not good. Okay. I think now we're in a bull market in regards to tech startups and AI in particular in the US. And there's going to be a lot of pain, a lot of losses. I think you need to develop some experience before you do, especially hardware, because the risks are very high. It's easy to make a fatal mistake for the business that costs a lot of money.
Your point of view, like let's say all the countries in Europe are like right now, okay, he's right, let's fucking do this. What is the amount of magnitude of a budget you would need right now to take the current European manufacturing hub to, let's say, to the comparable level to Shenzhen in key industries like batteries, EV, phone?
Hundreds of billions, for sure.
Hundreds of billions, okay.
Over time, but you can milestone it. So you can see some success and decide on the next tranche.
Hundreds of billions isn't even that insane, actually. Like if there would be a will, that would be doable. In Europe.
Also like what industries you target first, like what is the path?
So pick winners, be strategic about it versus like a little bit everywhere.
Yeah, and then talent. There's not a ton of entrepreneurial talent in this space anymore because Europe has been industrialized for so long, and most people have a regular life or employee mentality. So it's like, how do you build that culture? I don't have a solution right now. Maybe it's like import, but also integrate these people, entrepreneurs from other places in the world. And then culture. Like, to be honest, it's hard to build in Europe. There's a lot of smart people, but you got to find them.
And right now, like if friends of mine produce anything in hardware, they go directly to Shenzhen. So it's not just like the phones, it's like the capability in general to be at the frontier, at least from my point of view.
Yeah, phones can easily branch out into cars and robotics and other kind of categories. So I think it's, personally, I think it's important for Europe to do it. But if you think about it from our perspective or from a like a brand's perspective, the P&L really matters, right?
Yeah, of course.
So if it costs 30% more to manufacture in Europe,
that would be good.
It's going to be like 50 to 60 or even more expensive to make it here. It's a big game to play. To be honest, it's hard to build in Europe. Europe had that like hundreds of years ago. Europe was exploring the world and kind of owning the entire world. But now it's a very chill culture, enjoy life, work-life balance. I respect people who choose that for their lives, but we need to cultivate a different kind of culture, at least in a small pocket of people, if we want to pull off this manufacturing renaissance. I mean, Europe has some of the best universities in the world, but I don't think there's a lot of good places to go after university. Like if you want to work at an ambitious company, what are your options? If we position ourselves as one of the most ambitious companies in Europe and we start recruiting a lot from campus and we train these people up ourselves, I think that gives us a really strong edge into the future because one, like the big companies don't really invest in youth. Two, like they're really smart. Why don't we do this when other people are not investing? That's when we should invest.
So that's a lot of realities. Like that's a hyper-competitive industry, super low margins, huge competitors that are locking down the market, and production pretty much only working right now in China. India catching up, pretty much impossible elsewhere because of the supply chain networks and just like the economy of scale that you need. But I also wanted to know where's all of this going, because right now we have one of the most interesting shifts in our generation. We have AI. You can like just now say what you want as an app and instantly have it, which changes the whole premise of like how these companies work, because Android, but also like Apple, like everything is around apps, right? Like the App Store, like that's the main way to monetize actually your iPhone. How does this change if all the apps are like instantly custom made for the moment you need them? When the form factors change and you have like more and more custom hardware for specific use cases using AI, how does this industry evolve as a whole?
How do you rethink the phone as like your companion, like as your assistant, as your agent, you know what I mean?
I think, in our industry, in hardware in general, it's like you always have to find balance. If you push too fast and you push it into the future, you might be too early. I think a lot of ideas died because they were too early. So, because this is also a consumer business, we sell to people who use their hard-earned money to actually buy the product. So it can't just be a prototype. So whilst we have visions for a very different future, we have to take it step by step to bring everybody along the way. So we imagine a future where the OS is super personal. Like today, your Mac OS and my Mac OS is the same. But we're actually different people. We have different goals in life. We have different backgrounds. I believe the future of software will be one-to-one. You will have a hyper-personalized version specifically made for you and your current context. It should be proactive. Like today, it's very reactive. So ultimately, we're going to get to a stage where you save a lot of time on like boring stuff. You can focus on what you're really passionate about in your life, and it's different for every person. So if we're able to build this, you can argue that, for instance, a humanoid robot is just a physical manifestation of the OS, just like a smartphone is, or just like a new smart gadget is.
What should a 20-year-old car right now do to be as successful as possible?
It's really tough, right? Because I remember when I finished university, I wanted to get into startups, and I was in Stockholm, and I couldn't get a job. Like I could get I even applied for a customer service job at a startup because I wanted to be a part of the startup ecosystem, and I got rejected. Because I don't think Europe gives a lot of opportunities for young people. And I was lucky to have moved to China for 10 years at that time, but now China is also mature. It's also hard for young people to have opportunities.
It's also very hierarchical, I assume.
Yeah, back then it was like the Wild West days. Everybody had opportunity. But I think you should work at some place that gives you some skills and perspective over your industry. And if you're working in an industry, you get to discover the pain points of that industry, and then it will help you formulate your ideas for your company.
Well, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
This was awesome.
Yeah, it was fun.
Cool. Thanks so much for watching. If this kind of stuff is interesting for you, we have one more video here about China's industrialization, and here we have one video about manufacturing and robotics with a company called Sunrise. Yeah, thanks for watching, like and subscribe, and see you in the next video.